Hello, my name is Connor Quinlan, and in this review, I'm going to be doing a comparison between the d5100 and the d300s digital SLR. Now, before you start going on talking about how different those cameras are, well, they're actually not so different as you think. Nikon's newest DX cameras, which have been the d3100 and most notably the d7000 and d5100 now, have really excelled in image quality, and believe it or not, have even surpassed that of the d300s, which is Nikon's flagship DX model right now. Now, even though the d300s is more expensive, that doesn't mean it's always going to be better in terms of image quality. In this specific situation, obviously, more beginner's camera is actually better than a more professional camera. And so that's really the purpose of this video and why I'm doing it, is to kind of show the difference between those two cameras and to show people, especially beginners who are considering something like a d300s, why it's not a good idea to get the d300s and why it's a good idea to maybe get something like this. Of course, the d300s can still has its uses, but it's always a good idea to kind of get an idea of what's better with each camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the Nikon d5100, which, like I said, its image quality is superior to that of the d300s, even though it is cheaper. It's not really noticeable until really high ISOs, about ISO 1600 or 3200. Anything above that, obviously, you can definitely see a difference between the two, and the d5100 definitely has the edge there. It also has the edge in terms of dynamic range. It actually has a full 1.4 stop advantage there. And then also it does have better color depth as well. Now, I don't want to hear any complaints or anything about how that's not true and the image quality of the d300s must be better. Look at any other review online and you will find the exact same information about image quality, color depth, and dynamic range. Nikon has had a real improvement in ISO and image quality capability with these DX cameras, so that's just the way it is. And I'm sure once Nikon replaces the d300s that it's going to be an even more phenomenal camera than anything we have right now. But right now, that's the way it is. So other than that, it also has better video, 180p at 30 frames per second compared to the 720p at 24 frames per second of the d300s. A lot better video. This camera also has HDR in camera, which can be very useful and actually works pretty well. It also has a higher resolution, although it's not really a big deal, 16 megapixels versus the 12 megapixels of the d300s. That can be somewhat useful for cropping and whatnot, but megapixels nowadays obviously isn't a very big deal. Other than that, it has a flip screen, as you can see here, side articulated. It has the same resolution screen as the d300s, but the flip screen definitely adds to it for those who like to shoot in live view or macro photography. It's pretty useful. The last couple of things is that it has a greater ISO range than the d300s, ranging from 100 all the way up to 25,600. And obviously the better noise control has led to that as well. And then it's also smaller, lighter, and a lot less expensive than the d300s. And those are the main advantages of the d5100. But obviously, since the d300s is more expensive, it does have a lot of advantages over the d5100, not including image quality. First of all, the d300s has a focus motor, which means it can work with non-AFS lenses. That's really only useful for people who own older lenses. If you're just starting out, pretty much every camera or every company, third party or not, will have lenses that will work with a camera like this. The Nikon d300s also has a much better AF system, a 51-point AF system versus the 11-point in this. It also has 15 cross-type AF sensors, whereas this has only one. So that's a pretty big difference there too. So as you can see, speed and durability are going to be the main differences between these two cameras. And then it also has a better viewfinder. It has a larger, brighter, and more coverage viewfinder, which can be useful. Shoots a lot faster, obviously, 7 frames per second without a grip, 8 frames per second with a grip versus the 4 frames per second of this camera. That's a dramatic difference, a lot faster. And then, of course, being faster, it also is faster in pretty much every other way, startup time, shutter lag, and whatnot. And then also it takes 2 cards instead of just one, like this camera does. It also takes CF cards, which tend to be faster than SD cards. And then also it has, of course, a much better build, full magnesium alloy body with weather sealing, Great for if you're taking pictures in the wet rain or with dust and stuff like that, or in pretty nasty conditions where you need a durable camera that can take a blow. Finally, the D300s has a shutter speed capability of 1/8,000th of a second, whereas this has a shutter capability of max of 1/4,000th of a second. So those are the main differences between the two cameras. Now I'm just going to go over a quick recommendation. Obviously, for most everybody, especially those who are just starting out to get their own new digital SLR, the D5100 is a much better choice. Superior image quality in pretty much every way, and much cheaper and much easier to use for the beginner especially. If you shoot still life photography or pretty much even most sports photography this camera can take. The only reason I would ever choose the D300s is if you really dedicate most photography to sports photography, and even then you'll still have to give up the image quality that you could get with this camera. If you're really into sports, instead of getting this camera or the D300s, personally I would just go for a D7000. And yes, the D7000 is not quite as fast as the D300s, but it's speedy enough in my opinion. And if you want something speedier, I'd skip the D300s. Either wait for a replacement model to come out of it, which won't be too long obviously, or go all the way and get a full frame camera like a D3, which can shoot a lot faster. But obviously at that point you have to be a pro to really spend that much money on the camera equipment. So that's pretty much all that I have to say about these cameras, and then other than that, the decision really is up to you.